The Galactic Endurance Authority had tested lava swimmers, vacuum breathers, and creatures that could sleep for a year without food. It had never seen a human refuse to stop. And it had never seen a scoring system beg for mercy. The station named Grail 9 floated above a cold blue moon, silent and proud like a trophy. Inside, the Galactic Endurance Authority ran the same trials for every species that wanted respect, trade rights, and a seat near the Galactic Council. Most beings feared the place. Humans requested it. That alone bothered Director Sale Vorin, a tall, blade-thin alien from the Vorin Collective. His skin looked like dark glass under the lights, and his eyes never fully blinked. He trusted numbers more than people. "Human representative," Sale said from the observation deck, voice smooth and bored. "State your name." On the testing floor, a woman stepped forward and stretched her arms like she was about to start a morning jog. Mara Cade. 30 years old. Medium height. Lean muscle. Calm eyes. A face that didn't look brave, yet somehow was. "Mara Cade," she said. "I'm ready." Around Sale, technicians watched their panels and tried not to laugh. Humans looked soft to them. No armor plates. No extra limbs. No chemical weapons. Not even a decent bite radius. A nearby analyst, Dr. Hesh Rim, clicked his tongue. "This is the species that nearly wiped itself out with internal wars, correct?" Sale didn't answer. He didn't need to. Everyone knew. The humans had applied for council membership because they were tired of being treated like a local problem. Their diplomats had smiled too much. Their engineers had asked too many questions. Their stories had made too many aliens uncomfortable. Now came the endurance test, Grail 9's favorite moment. This was where confidence broke. Sale leaned toward the microphone. "Trial begins on your mark. You may stop at any time. The system will record your maximum endurance score." Mara nodded. Got it. The machine in front of her wasn't just a treadmill. It was an adaptive endurance platform called a pathway engine, a moving surface that changed friction, incline, gravity load, and airflow. It could simulate dunes, cliffs, heat storms, and low oxygen environments. A creature that survived it earned respect. The pathway engine hummed awake. The warm-up that wasn't. Level 1 began like an easy walk. Mara stepped forward. Smooth. Controlled. Her breathing stayed quiet. Sale glanced at the numbers. Normal heart rate. Normal oxygen use. Nothing special. Predictable, Dr. Hesh said. At level 5, the belt sped up and the incline rose. Most species began sweating in panic, or collapsing into anger. Mara just adjusted her stride, shoulders relaxed, eyes forward. At level 9, the platform switched terrain simulation. The surface became gritty, like running on sand. The air warmed. Gravity increased slightly. Mara's heart rate rose. Then it steadied. Sale's fingers paused above his console. Stability. A technician answered quickly. Yes, Director. Her cardiovascular rate is leveling instead of climbing. Dr. Hesh frowned. That's not typical. At level 12, the air temperature jumped again. The system expected distress. Mara began to sweat. Some aliens in the room made disgusted noises. They didn't like fluids. But the thermal display told a different story. The sweat evaporated and cooled her body like a living climate system. Her skin temperature stayed safe. Sale's eyes narrowed. Interesting. At level 15, the incline turned brutal. The platform increased resistance underfoot, like running uphill through mud. The belt demanded power. Mara's jaw tightened. She didn't stop. She didn't even look around. She focused, like her entire world had shrunk to the next step. A junior observer whispered, "She's still going." Sale didn't respond. He watched the oxygen curve and waited for the collapse. It didn't come. The betting starts. Across the observation deck, the staff began trading credits in quiet, embarrassed murmurs. "I give her another few minutes," one said. "She'll injure herself," another said. Dr. Hesh pulled up the human file and scoffed. They have fragile bones compared to most mammals in the council. Sale remained still, eyes fixed on the readouts. He didn't bet. He didn't joke. He didn't smile. Because he was starting to feel something he hated. Uncertainty. Level 20, the first crack in the system. The pathway engine reached level 20, an intensity that usually ended this test. It didn't end Mara. Her breathing turned deeper and heavier, but it stayed rhythmic. Her posture stayed clean. The way she moved wasn't violent. It was efficient, like she was built to last, not to shine. Sale leaned closer to the screen. Lactate markers were rising, then stabilizing. Pain markers were rising, then flattening. Fatigue predictions were screaming for shutdown, but Mara's motion stayed steady. Dr. Hesh shook his head. Impossible. She doesn't have enough muscle mass. A tech replied, voice low. Maybe muscle mass isn't the point. On the floor, Mara spoke without losing stride. Can you increase it? She asked. That sentence hit the room like an insult. Sale's voice turned colder. Level 23. The belt accelerated. The incline climbed. The resistance tightened. Mara's face changed, just a little. The calm mask cracked and revealed something fierce underneath. She was working now. Truly working. But she was still going. Sale watched the system logs. A small warning line appeared. Anomaly. Output exceeding predictive model. Then another. Anomaly. Subject adaptation rate outside parameters. Sale's jaw tightened. Run diagnostics. A technician moved fast. Diagnostics clean. Hardware normal. Dr. Hesh whispered, then the human is not normal. The moment the room went quiet. Level 25 arrived. A legendary Varcoon champion had collapsed at level 25 last cycle. The Varcoon were walking tanks with hearts like engines. Mara hit level 25 and kept running. Minutes passed. Then more minutes. Sales staff stopped whispering. They stopped betting. They stopped laughing. Even Dr. Hesh's confidence faded. Sales stared at the numbers, voice quieter than before. How long has she been at level 25? The technician swallowed. Longer than any biped in recorded trials. Sale's eyes didn't blink. On the floor, Mara's breathing was rough now, sweat pouring, legs burning. Anyone could see the fight in her body. But her eyes stayed locked forward. She wasn't running to win a score. She was running to make a point. And the Institute, built to measure endurance, was realizing it might not understand endurance at all. At level 26, the pathway engine made a sound it had never made before. A strained, trembling whine. Then the system flashed a new message across Sale's console. Warning, scoring limit approaching maximum. Sale's throat went dry. Because the limit wasn't supposed to be reachable. And the human woman wasn't slowing down. The warning spread through the observation deck like an infection. Technicians straightened. Analysts leaned in. Even security officers turned their heads from the doorway screens. Sale Vorin stared at the message like it had insulted his ancestors. Scoring limit. Dr. Hesh asked. That's impossible. The limit is theoretical. A technician answered, voice tight. The system was built with a ceiling for safety. It's never been touched. Below them, Mara Cade continued to run. Her steps were heavier now. Her shoulders had tension. Her mouth was open, pulling in air like she was drinking it. But she stayed in rhythm. The pathway engine did what it always did when a subject began to outperform expectations. It got cruel. Level 27. The station gets mean. The floor beneath Mara shifted again. The surface changed from sand to uneven rock simulation. Microvibrations hit her legs with every step, forcing extra stabilization. The air dried, then warmed. Gravity increased another fraction. The machine wasn't trying to measure her now. It was trying to break her. Sale spoke into the microphone. Human subject, you may stop. The data is sufficient. Mara didn't answer. Then she did, between breaths, without turning her head. No. That single word caused something strange in the room. Not anger. Not fear. A kind of uncomfortable respect. Dr. Hesh scoffed to hide his nerves. Stubbornness is not endurance. But Sale noticed Mara's form. She was doing something that didn't match the panic of most species. She wasn't sprinting like an animal trapped. She was pacing like a hunter. The human trick the system didn't understand. A second technician pointed at the graphs. Director, she's not chasing the peak. She's riding it. Sale's eyes narrowed. Explain. She's controlling her suffering, the technician said. The body is stressed, yes. But she's not letting stress control her motion. Dr. Hesh snapped, that's nonsense. The technician swallowed. It's not. Look at her breathing pattern. It's deliberate. Not desperate. Sale watched Mara's chest rise and fall. In. Out. In. Out. Even while the platform tried to throw her off balance, her breath stayed like a metronome. And then Sale saw it. When the incline surged, she shortened her stride. When the belt sped up, she leaned forward just enough, not more. When her legs shook, she tightened her core and let the shake pass. Tiny adjustments. Smart adjustments. Like she had done this fight before, many times. The sabotage suggestion. Dr. Hesh leaned close, lowering his voice. Director, we have a problem. If she reaches ceiling, the Institute becomes a joke. Sale didn't look away from the screens. The Institute is not a joke. It will be, Dr. Hesh insisted. The Council will laugh. Competitor labs will demand audits. Funding will evaporate. Sale's voice turned sharp. Say what you mean. Dr. Hesh hesitated, then spoke the ugly thought. End the trial. By force. By protocol, Dr. Hesh said quickly. Safety override. Claim risk. Shut it down before she breaks the limit. Sale's eyes finally shifted. Cold. Flat. Dangerous. You would falsify a measurement. It's not falsifying if it's protecting the integrity of the system. Sale turned back to the console. He could end it. He could save the Institute's pride with one button. But the human below had come here openly, asked for the test willingly, and refused to stop even when offered mercy. Sale hated humans for this. They made the clean math messy. Level 30, when the station itself starts to panic. Sale didn't press the shutdown. He raised the trial. Level 30. A hush fell over the deck. Level 30 wasn't used for normal applicants. It was used for legends and war specimens. It was used when the Institute wanted stories to tell. The pathway engine surged. Mara's face tightened hard. Her legs began to tremble in a visible way. She almost stumbled. A few observers leaned forward, excited. This is it, someone whispered. Now she breaks. Mara's foot slipped half an inch. Her arms flared wide for balance. For a heartbeat, it looked like the end. Then she caught herself. She recentered. And she kept running. Not pretty. Not easy. But still running. The console flashed again. Warning. Ceiling breach in 12%. Sale's lips parted slightly. He hadn't seen that message in his entire career. The human refuses the narrative. Below, Mara's breathing sounded like fire. Sweat poured from her hairline. Her shirt darkened. Her arms pumped harder now. Her steps were loud, heavy, honest. The Institute loved elegant winners, smooth, powerful species that looked glorious on camera. Mara wasn't glorious. She was stubborn. She was suffering. And she refused to stop. Sale found himself whispering, almost to himself, "Why?" Dr. Hesh answered with quiet disgust. "Ego." But a security officer, Captain Rel, spoke from the side. "No." They all looked at him. Captain Rel was from a warrior species that respected survival above reputation. His voice carried weight. "That is not ego," Captain Rel said. "That is proof." The hidden human pressure. Sales assistant flashed a message on his secondary screen. Incoming council liaison feed. Sale opened it. A council liaison appeared, pale, smooth, ceremonial. "Director Sale," the liaison said, polite and sharp. "We are receiving live anomalies from your station. Confirm the human applicant is not using illegal augmentation." Sale's eyes narrowed. "No augmentation. Full scan clean." "Then confirm the system is accurate." Sale glanced at the warning lines multiplying like bacteria. "System is accurate," he forced out. The liaison's expression stayed neutral, but the silence felt heavy. "Continue," the liaison said. "The council is watching." The feed ended. Now Sale had another problem. He couldn't shut it down quietly anymore. Level 33, the limit breaks. Sale's console flashed red. Critical. Ceiling breach imminent. Automated scoring overflow risk. Technicians scrambled. Dr. Hesh swore under his breath. Captain Rel folded his arms and watched, almost satisfied. Below, Mara was still running. Her eyes were fierce now, almost angry. Not at the machine. At the idea that someone, somewhere, had decided what she could be. The pathway engine reached a setting it rarely used, adaptive resistance spikes, small unpredictable surges meant to simulate a chaotic battlefield. Mara gritted her teeth. Her stride broke. She stumbled again. This time, she nearly went down. A gasp went through the room. Mara's hands slapped the side rails for a single step. Then she let go. She ran free again. And the console screamed. Ceiling breach confirmed. Scoring system, error 9x null. Requesting manual override. Sale stared at the message. The system had no category for what was happening. The Institute wasn't measuring her anymore. It was failing to describe her. Mara's legs wobbled violently. Her breathing sounded like metal scraping. Then she did something that made Sale's stomach twist. She smiled. A small, exhausted, stubborn smile. And she spoke, barely audible. Still, not done. Sale felt a cold line crawl up his spine. Because if she wasn't done, then the Institute was about to learn what humans did best. They didn't just survive impossible odds. They rewrote what possible meant. The observation deck turned into chaos, but Mara Cade turned into something else. Not stronger. Not faster. Just unwilling to quit. Technicians argued over the screens. We need to reset the scoring loop. If we reset, we lose the data. The council is watching. Do not touch the archive. Director Sale Vorin stood at the center of it, silent as a blade, while the station's proud system displayed error codes like wounds. And still, Mara ran. The truth behind human endurance. Captain Rel, arms crossed, finally spoke. Director, you keep asking what she is doing. Sale didn't look away from the live feed. I am listening. Captain Rel nodded toward Mara. She is using a weapon that cannot be bolted onto a skeleton. Dr. Hesh scoffed. Spare us the warrior poetry. Captain Rel ignored him. Your scans measure bones, muscle density, oxygen capacity. You measure the engine. He tapped his own chest. Humans are not just engines. They are drivers. A technician pulled up human physiology notes. There's something called the second wind. A phenomenon where the body stops screaming the way it did earlier and enters a controlled burn. Sale's voice was low. A biological trick. It's partly biological, the technician said, and partly mental. Humans train themselves to live inside discomfort. Dr. Hesh snapped, every species can tolerate discomfort. The technician shook their head. Not like this. Humans have a history of running to hunt. Long-distance pursuit. Not fast, but endless. Sale watched Mara's face. Pain was there, clear as sunlight. But panic wasn't. She looked like someone walking through a storm she had already decided to cross. The Institute tries to end her. Sales console displayed a recommended action. Automated safety shutdown. Approved. His finger hovered. Dr. Hesh leaned close. Do it. Sale didn't press it. Instead, he opened a public channel to the floor. Human subject. You have exceeded all required measures. Stop. This is an order for safety. Mara's answer came rough and sharp between breaths. You don't get to order my limit. A shock moved through the deck. Not because she was disrespectful. Because she sounded certain. Like she owned the line between victory and collapse. The hidden human plan. A new figure appeared at the edge of the testing floor. A human technician from Mara's team, Eli Vance, wearing a simple translator collar and holding a tablet. Security stepped toward him, but Mara raised one hand briefly, still running, and shook her head. Let him speak, Mara gasped. Eli spoke into the translator, voice steady. Director Sale. The system is failing because it assumes endurance is a straight line. Sale's eyes narrowed. Explain. Eli lifted the tablet. Your scoring algorithm is built for species that are born durable. Their output stays near their maximum until it drops off a cliff. He pointed to the graphs. Humans are different. We are messy. We build endurance in layers. We fluctuate. We adapt. We ration pain. Dr. Hesh sneered. So you are claiming your weakness is a feature? Eli nodded. Yes. Sale's voice sharpened. Why would you come here to break our system? Mara answered for him, voice harsh, honest. Because you use it to decide who matters. Silence. That hit harder than any score. The machine hits back. The pathway engine responded with a new cruelty, heat surge. The air around Mara shimmered. Temperature rose fast. Most species would collapse from heat shock at this level. Mara's body turned red. Sweat intensified. Her breathing sounded like a furnace. But the thermal display showed something terrifyingly effective. Evaporation. Cooling. A human-built survival hack, evolved and trained. Sale's eyes widened just slightly. The Institute had mocked sweating as weakness. Now it looked like genius. Mara's step stayed heavy, but she didn't drop. The station's fans screamed to keep up, but the human's cooling system was already working in silence, inside her skin. The moment Mara almost falls. At level 36, her legs buckled. Her knees dipped. She stumbled forward. For the first time, her eyes flicked to the emergency stop button. The room held its breath. Her fingers hovered near it. Then Mara pulled her hand back like the button was poison. She shook her head, almost angry at herself. No, she whispered. Not like that. She kept running. Sale felt something twist in his chest, something uncomfortable. Respect. The price of breaking a system. A technician shouted, Director, the pathway engine's core is heating. If she keeps going, we risk a mechanical cascade. Sale snapped, How long? Minutes, the technician answered. The motor wasn't designed for continuous sealing breach. Dr. Hesh looked relieved. Then we stop her before she destroys the machine. Eli Vance's voice cut in, calm but hard. If your system can't survive a human refusing to quit, maybe your system was never built to measure reality. Sale turned on him. Enough. Eli didn't flinch. Director, you can stop the test and protect a machine. He nodded toward Mara. Or you can witness what you asked to measure. Sale looked down at Mara. She was shaking now. Not with fear. With effort. And still, she ran. Sale finally spoke into the channel. Human subject. What do you want? Mara's answer came out broken but clear. I want you to stop calling us fragile. Her next breath was a growl. I want you to stop deciding our value with numbers that were never meant for us. She looked up, eyes burning. And I want you to remember this, every time you test someone smaller than you. Sale's jaw tightened. The station's alarms rose in pitch. The pathway engine's core hit critical temperature. And Mara, human, exhausted, unstoppable, kept running as if she could outlast the laws of metal and math. The alarms became a scream. Red lights flashed across the observation deck. Automated warnings rolled down Sale Vorin's screen in harsh lines. Core heat critical. Motor failure probable. Catastrophic platform lock risk. If the pathway engine seized while Mara was running, it could throw her like a stone. Dr. Hesh pointed sharply. Director! Shut it down. Now! Technicians panicked. Security stepped forward. Captain Rel moved toward the door, ready to rush the floor if needed. Sale's hand hovered over the shutdown. And then Mara did something nobody expected. She glanced at the overhead maintenance panel, just for a moment, and understood the danger before they told her. She had seen machines. She had trained with machines. She knew when a system was about to break. Mara's face tightened. She didn't slow to save herself. She changed her pace to save the machine. The smartest thing she did was slower. Instead of pushing harder, Mara adjusted. She shortened her stride. Lowered the impact. Reduced the vibration. Her breathing turned into controlled pulls. In. Out. In. The motor temperature graph stopped climbing as fast. A technician whispered, shocked. She's regulating the load. Sale stared. She's protecting the engine. Dr. Hesh looked disgusted. Why would she do that? Captain Rel answered quietly. Because humans don't just endure. He watched Mara with something like approval. They adapt. The choice that changed the room. Sale opened the channel. Human subject, you are risking death. Mara's voice came out raw. I know. Then stop. Mara shook her head, still running. If your machine breaks, you'll blame us. You'll call it cheating. You'll hide behind the damage. She swallowed air, eyes hard. I'm not giving you that excuse. Sale felt the words strike him like a slap. Not because they were insulting. Because they were true. Dr. Hesh makes his move. Dr. Hesh stepped to a side console and began typing fast. Sale noticed. What are you doing? Dr. Hesh didn't look up. Initiating emergency override. It will end the trial and preserve institutional integrity. Sale's eyes narrowed. Stop. Dr. Hesh's fingers kept moving. You hesitate because you are impressed. That is unscientific. Sale stepped forward, voice cutting. Stop. Dr. Hesh finally looked up, expression tight. If she wins, we lose control of our standards. We lose authority. Sale's voice turned icy. Authority is not the purpose of measurement. Dr. Hesh's eyes flicked with anger. It is the only reason this place exists. He hit the final command. On the floor, the pathway engine began to change. Fast. Not a smooth shutdown. A forced termination. The belt's resistance spiked unpredictably. Mara's foot caught. Her body pitched forward. For a horrifying moment, she was falling. Captain Rel lunged for the door. Sale shouted, "Cancel it!" But the override was already running. Mara's instinct, survive, then continue. Mara threw her hands out, caught the rails, and dragged herself back into rhythm with a violent burst of effort. Her knees shook. Her arms trembled. Her breath tore through her throat. But she didn't drop. She recovered. Then she looked up at the observation deck. And even without translation, her face said one thing clearly. Really? Eli Vance saw it and stepped forward, voice sharp. Director. Someone forced an override. Sale spun toward Dr. Hesh. You endangered the subject. Dr. Hesh hissed, I protected the Institute. Sale's eyes turned hard as stone. You protected your pride. Sale slammed his palm down and locked Dr. Hesh out of the console. Security seized Dr. Hesh's arms. Dr. Hesh struggled, spitting words. You're letting a human embarrass us. Sale didn't look at him again. He looked at Mara. She was barely holding her form now. But she was still running. The moment the galaxy saw her, a council broadcast icon flashed. Live council view. Enabled. Sale's stomach tightened. He hadn't authorized that. Which meant the council had done it themselves. They wanted this recorded. They wanted to see if the Institute was honest. Sale leaned into the microphone and spoke clearly, so the entire galaxy could hear. This trial remains valid. No augmentation detected. No fraud present. He paused, then added something that shocked his own staff. The subject's endurance is real. On the floor, Mara heard him. Her eyes softened for half a second. Then the suffering returned. And she ran through it. The ending nobody expected. The pathway engine's core stabilized, barely, because Mara kept regulating her impact. The system stopped screaming and started coping. Technicians stared, almost in awe. Sale watched the timer. Mara had crossed every record, every benchmark, every ceiling. Now she was running beyond measurement. She was running inside legend. Sale opened the channel one more time. Mara Cade, he said. You have proven your point. Mara's voice cracked. Not yet. Sale blinked slowly. What remains? Mara swallowed, breath ragged. The question isn't how long I can run. She stared forward, eyes fierce. The question is whether you can admit you were wrong. The observation deck went silent. Even the alarms seemed quieter now. Sale looked at the broken scoring system, the overflowing data, the watching council feed. And he realized this wasn't just a test. It was a demand for respect. And Mara Cade, human, shaking, unstoppable, was forcing the galaxy to answer. Sale Vorin had spent his life believing systems were pure. Now he watched one collapse under a human who refused to be categorized. Mara Cade's legs trembled violently. Her breath was a storm. Sweat ran like rain. Her face was pale with effort. But her eyes stayed alive. And the galaxy was watching. The moment Sale spoke the truth. Sale leaned toward the MIC again, voice steady but changed. Council liaison, he said, the Institute's scoring algorithm is incomplete. The liaison's face appeared on screen, calm and sharp. Director Sale. Are you declaring your own system flawed? Sale paused. Then he answered with something that felt like a blade turning inward. Yes. A wave of murmurs moved through the observation deck. Dr. Hesh struggled against security, furious. You can't. Sale didn't look at him. Sale continued. We built our scales to measure strength that looks like armor, mass, and raw output. He watched Mara run. But endurance is not always loud. The liaison's eyes narrowed slightly. And the human. Sale's voice lowered with reluctant respect. The human is demonstrating endurance as a strategy. Mara's final push. On the floor, Mara's body finally began to fail in the honest way all bodies do. Her stride shortened. Her shoulders sagged. Her breathing turned harsh. Eli Vance spoke softly into his MIC, voice full of worry. Mara, it's enough. Mara shook her head. Not dramatic. Not angry. Just certain. I came here to change the story, she rasped. Not to be a footnote. She pushed through another surge. Then another. And then, finally, the moment arrived. Not a collapse. Not a fall. A decision. Mara reached out with one shaking hand and pressed the emergency stop. The belt slowed. The incline flattened. The wind died down. Mara stumbled off the platform, legs wobbling, chest heaving like she'd fought a war. She didn't raise her arms in victory. She didn't smile. She simply stood there, breathing, existing. And that alone felt like triumph. Captain Rel stepped onto the floor and offered a stabilizing arm. Mara accepted it without pride. Above, Sale watched her with a strange quiet expression. The human hadn't destroyed his institute. She had saved it from a lie. The council's verdict. The liaison's voice returned through the speakers, carrying formal weight. Mara Cade of Earth. Your performance has exceeded measurable standards. Your species' endurance profile will be reclassified. Sales staff froze. Reclassified meant power. It meant new respect. It meant new political space. The liaison continued. Earth's application for council partnership will proceed with priority review. Dr. Hesh snarled, "No." Security tightened their hold. The liaison's gaze turned colder. Furthermore, the council requests a full audit of the institute's bias parameters. Sale's throat tightened. He had expected ridicule. He received something more dangerous. Accountability. The human message that stayed. Mara finally looked up at the observation deck, eyes tired but bright. She didn't threaten. She didn't boast. She simply spoke like she was talking to someone who had been wrong for too long. You thought endurance was a number. She swallowed, voice cracking a little. For us, it's a promise. She glanced at Eli, then back at Sale. We don't always win fast. We don't always look impressive. Her chest rose and fell hard. But we keep going. There was a quiet in the station that felt bigger than silence. It felt like a lesson. Sale's private realization. Later, after medics checked Mara and cleared her with disbelief, Sale stood alone in the empty observation deck. The pathway engine sat below like a defeated beast. The scoring system was being rebuilt. Not because it broke. Because it had been wrong. Sale opened the final archived file and watched the moment Mara nearly fell, then recovered. He replayed it. Again. And again. Not as entertainment. As study. Then Sale did something that would have shocked every colleague who knew him. He recorded a personal note into the Institute archive. Humans should never be judged by their appearance at the start. He paused, eyes fixed on the screen. They reveal themselves only after discomfort becomes permanent. He stopped the recording and stood still for a long time. Because he realized the truth. A system can measure strength. But only a human can teach you what strength really is. And the galaxy would remember the day a woman from Earth ran past the edge of math, and came back with a new standard.